Hello, and welcome to the Schenectady Foundation Support Series. This video will be on our project budget form. When you go into your application, you will see this question regarding your project budget. We have provided you a template that you can download, and we ask that you fill this out, and we will go through this on the coming slides as to how. But if you do choose to use another template, we ask that you contact us ahead of time to make sure it meets our requirements. And I'll go over that last line at the end about the other line item. But you have a chance to upload a file and then provide some short narrative or explanation in the text area below. When you open our budget template, this is the form that will pop up. So you can see there's 4 different columns and it's spaced into 2 different sections, one for revenue and one for expenses. And on the coming slides, we'll go over each section and how to best fill those out. First, starting with revenue, we'll stay within that first column. So these are any items regarding the Schenectady Foundation grant of what you're requesting from us. Other grants from state institutions, other foundations, etc. And then corporate contributions or donations, individual contributions or donations, fees for any services that you may provide, fundraisers, events, or ticket sales that you might do, and then miscellaneous, anything that may not fall into those categories. Now onto the next column. This is where you'll put all the information about specifically the Schenectady Foundation grant. So as I said, this is where you'll put the grant amount requested, which you will be stating in your application, and you'll just plug that number in right here. In the other column, you're going to go through all your other revenue expenses that revenue sources that we went over a little bit earlier, and you put all of those numbers in for there, so that in that last column, they all will add up due to our formulas in this form. So you just plug in all of the numbers in those 2 columns, and then the last column will do all of the math for you. So we just went over the revenue section. Now let's go over our expenses. So staying within that first column with our line items, we'll go through some of those employee costs such as salaries and benefits, rents and utilities for spaces that you may be in, and furnishings and equipments for those, any supplies and materials for your project, printing, copying, postage, any advertising you may do, travel, any professional development for your employees or technical assistance, contract services like consultants, capital improvements such as addition to a building, fixing a existing structure, meeting and conferences that you may go to or attend, and the other line item, which we'll go over in a little bit. So in that second column, it's going to be the fund allocations of the grant amount from the foundation. So that might sound a little confusing, but as you're reading through our application, we have 2 questions. So one that is the grant amount requested from the foundation, which is just a simple number you'll put in. And then the question below, which will be about fund allocations. So of that requested money, where will those funds be sorted into? How much will be for salary? How much is going to be for that technical assistance? So we ask you to break it down, but just out of the amount that you're requesting from the foundation. And then in that third column, it's going to be the fund allocations from all other revenue sources that you may have. So that can be anything as those line items that I said before, but you're really just saying how any donations or grants are also going to be allocated so that this project can be made possible. And as I said in the revenue section, in that last column, total expenses, it's going to add up those previous two columns to get your full project budget. So it's going to add up all of those expenses to get a cumulative total. And then, as I said earlier, with the other line item that I said we were going to get to, this is where all of your miscellaneous items are going to fit, so the items that don't fit into the other categories. But we have been asking that if that other line item exceeds 5% of your total project budget, that you either recategorize those or explain it in that narrative section of this question on your application. And then just taking a full look out at the full form, you'll have the two sections, the expenses, and then the last line, which adds all revenue expenses for you and will go and explain how much you have in terms of revenue and expenses and what that means for your project budget. So, key points. If you choose a different template, please contact the foundation staff beforehand and share it with us so we can ensure it meets our requirements. And then, as I stated, if the other line items exceeds 5% of your budget, please categorize it differently or briefly describe it in the details in the space below the upload section. Now, on to some frequently asked questions. What does it mean for funding to be secured or requested? Secured means you have written confirmation, signed agreement, or an award letter. The money is committed. Request means that you have applied for it or planning to, but have yet to receive confirmation, and just clearly indicate which status applies most to each source. Do I have to list every single funding source, even small ones? Yes. The foundation asks for all funding sources for this project so reviewers can understand the full financial picture. Even small contributions, in-kind donations, or pending applications should be listed. What if I don't have any other funding sources yet? That's okay. You can indicate that the foundation grant is the sole funding source for this project. However, if applicable, it's a good opportunity to reference any in-kind support, volunteer contributions, or funding you are actively pursuing. Can I list funding I've applied for but haven't heard back on yet? Yes. Just clearly mark that it's requested rather than secured. Reviewers understand that funding landscapes shift, and they want an honest picture of where things stand at this point in the application. Does listing many other funders help or hurt my application? Generally, it helps. It demonstrates that others believe in your project and reduces the foundation's risk. It also allows to show you're not solely dependent on one grant, which ties directly into the sustainability question on our application. What if a budget category doesn't apply to my project? Do I leave it blank or put a 0? So leaving it as blank is fine. You don't need to fill in a 0 or anything. And you don't need to fill in every single line item. Only enter the amounts for the categories that are relevant to your project. Thanks for watching our support series video, and we wish you the best of luck on your application. Bye.